Hi, I'm Justin. This is C5Dev, where inspiration is a chain reaction. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to Scenario GG. It's a tool that I've been really excited to use for some time now, and I recently got my opportunity to use it. So I want to show you how Scenario GG is structured, and then I will walk through some examples of some things that I've done with the tool. And as we're going through that, I'm going to share with you a little bit about the functions and the features within the app. Before I dive into the application, let's take a quick look at Scenario GG's website to get a better understanding of what the company and the application are going to do. So I'm at scenario.gg, and you can see right here kind of what the focus of the company and the application is. AI generated game assets, create high quality, style consistent proprietary assets for your games. Right now, the company is in an alpha phase with their initial product. But definitely put your email address in here, so that way if there are future testing releases, you may be able to get access to them there. Or when the company is ready to release the product in general, then you'll be notified. If you quickly read through the company's vision, you can see that game assets include quite a few things. We saw the assets on the homepage, but they're also looking at 3D models, sound and music, animations, environments, and more. Beyond just being able to create the assets, the company is also focusing on reducing the cost and creating a better user interface for generating the assets that you want. And another part that's very important is that you can create assets that you have ownership of. With that, let's fire up the Scenario GG application. Okay, so I'm at the website, and when you first log in, I did hide some things right here, but there will just be to create your first generator, and then there won't be any images. And also there will be this little friendly chatbot that's going to talk to you. If you're watching this video, you probably don't need to run through that, but you are welcome to if you'd like. All right, the main interfaces. So we're at the home page. Generators is going to be the list of generators that you create. And right now you may not know what that means. We'll get into that. And then images are the images that you've produced from generators. You then have the option to create a generator or generate images. The first part you want to start with is generate images. So I already have 2 generators that I created. I'm going to skip over those for right now, but what you will see is this public generators. At this point, you can see some of the game assets that we saw on the company's homepage. So let's start with the potions. As soon as you open this page up, you can go to generate images, and I recommend that you do. When you click that, it's going to submit a request. You can see right here the number of images are 4 by default and sampling steps are 50. For this one, I'm going to let it run through these phases, so that way you can see right here the snapshots of the actual diffusion process that is happening behind the scenes. In future runs, I'm going to skip past this, so that way you don't have to wait for things to render, but I wanted to show that. I think this is a really neat part of what this tool offers as well, is actually showing you the steps of how it iterates and how it creates these assets. If you're familiar with other AI generation tools such as DALL-E or Dream Studio or the Hugging Face API, you may know what to do next. If you're not familiar with that though, let me just show you how you can quickly make some changes to these assets. So I'm going to do something very simple and just type purple here and then hit generate images. All right, so you can see it started to move some of the images to more of a purple. On that green bottle, it actually gave me a purple background. So each of those images now have something to do with purple. So let me see. One thing I want to do is let's modify that. So I want to call it purple bottle. Okay, so taking a look at our results. We now only have 2 purple bottles, so a little bit different, but there is some purple on this bottle, so technically that's right. And there's a little bit of purple inside the bottle, but purple around as well. Now, let's try going to green. It seems to like to make green potions, so let's go with green. All right, so we have our green potions, and again, you can see there is green on the bottle and even a green background, so it is aligning with what we're asking. With that, I want to quickly run the example that the Scenario GG chatbot actually offers, and that way you can see kind of some of the changes that you can make. I'm going to paste that in. So this is a comma separated list. You put that in there and then you can just hit enter and it parses that out for you. And I'll hit generate images. So now you can see the potions are all purple. So I think before when I was saying purple bottle, I was giving it context that I see these as bottles, but it sees them more as potions because of what it's been focused on. So purple potion is going to give you more of that. You can see intricately detailed 3D rendering. So it does give a little bit more towards that. Not that some of the other bottles didn't have that. For instance, this bottle I would say is kind of intricate and has that, but it's definitely pushing more of the results towards that. And that's the big focus of this prompt. You're really trying to push the results towards the target that you want, but they're not always going to be 100% hit. So now let's keep going with these purple potions and see if we can add some more to it. One of the really nice things that Scenario GG did was add a bunch of options. So that way, if you're not sure what you can do, they have some examples here. So first, let's take a look at art style. And let's make it interesting and go with cyberpunk. I'm going to run that. So didn't seem to have much of an effect as the rest of the items are still kind of there. Let's try pulling away some of the other prompts and just leave cyberpunk. See what that does. Okay, the cyberpunk didn't have too much of an effect. I guess you can see some of that, but I guess what would a cyberpunk bottle even look like? Let's try one of the other art styles that are available. Let's maybe go with comic book style. You can see that we have 3 of our 4 results that are really kind of moving away from what we want. So I'm going to close out the comic book style because that's kind of giving us not something that we want. Art medium, different options in here. We can try concept art. Changing the effects a little bit. I can see some of that concept here, some of it here. But let's go with some of the other ones. Let's see what else we have. Let's go to colors and choose charcoal. Okay, that worked pretty well. You can see we have charcoal coloring on different aspects of the potions. So pretty cool. Now one thing, this says colors, and this would be the same as if I were to actually type charcoal up here as well. So it doesn't know specifically to apply that as a color. For instance, if there's a charcoal style of art around potions, it may have gone that route. So from there, these are all just kind of hints as to what you could possibly type into the prompt, but this is a free prompt, so you can type anything you want. The next part is you can control the number of images you can create. So as far as the alpha goes, you can have between 4 and 10. I'm going to keep it at 4. And then sampling steps are the iterations that it's going to go through. So I'm going to quickly show you what that means. So if I choose a sample step of 10, you're going to see more of a distorted image. And there we go. Not very pretty. So let's move this up. What if we do more than 50 sampling steps? So when we ran more than 50, yeah, I can see a little bit of an improvement on some of the details here. But when you're generating these, you probably want to stick with the smallest number of steps that you need in order to make a quality looking image. One of the things that I want to show you, if we click on this, we can go in and now see a larger view of that image. You can also go full screen. I can cycle through the other images that were a part of this. Let's take a look at the advanced options. I'll scroll down. So we have the ability to change the pixels. We can go between 512 and 1024 on both height and width. I'm going to stick with 512 because it's a lot faster. When you expand it to 1024, you now have twice the number of pixels. But if you go to 1024 on the width, you have 4 times the number. So it takes longer for the generator to produce the images. That's why for me, I'm going to keep it at 512 for this whole video. Negative prompt is an interesting aspect where you actually get to pull out aspects that you don't want to see. The prompt up above tells the generator, here are some of the aspects that I want to see, but it doesn't tell the generator what you don't want to see. So this is your opportunity to add that. So I'm going to try adding in background here. So that should hint to the generator that I don't want backgrounds on these images. I'm going to run the generator now. All right, so that did not yield what I expected, but that's part of learning this AI generation tool, is to try to figure out how can I add or remove things. So let's see here. Maybe I can try removing the rope from the bottles. And I'll generate that image. Got luckier on that one. You can see there's even the little medallions, but there's no longer the rope around there. Below negative prompt is the seed. So the seed allows you to set to one image and hold it at that. But you'll have to set the number of images that you return to 1 and then use that. When you're really trying to tune just one image at a time, you could use that. But I recommend waiting until you have some experience and working with the data sets before you dive into that. So then the last option is guidance. And that lets you go from 0 all the way up to 20. So let's try that real quick. Actually, I'm going to drop it down to 0 for this run. All right, so you can see those results are definitely deviating from our potions that we requested. And then I'll try putting the guidance all the way to 20. All right, so you can see that we definitely have potions, but they look maybe a little bit different than we want. So that was an introduction to the generating the images from an existing generator. Now you may be saying, Justin, I don't want to make potions. I want to do other things. I want to create other game assets. And I'm glad you're thinking that. So the next part, I'm going to create assets from the initial generator. When I was younger, I played Magic the Gathering, and I thought the illustrations on the cards were always really cool looking. One of the card types that I found interesting was the land type, and they had the different lands, mountains, islands, swamp. I'm going to try to recreate some of those mountains and see if we can do that with Scenario GG. So I'm back at the home page, and what I need to do is create a generator so that way I can create images. I'll go to create a generator, and it says add training images. So at this point, I'm thinking, well, I need images to start from in order to create my generator. So where do I get those images? There is copyright on most images that you're going to find online. And so depending on the ones that you find, you may not be able to actually have rights to the things that you produce. You may not be able to actually use those images to even create a generator. I recommend not going to the internet and downloading anything. Instead, there are 2 ways that I recommend that you do this. One, you can use Scenario GG itself, which is the route that I'm going to show you how to do. And 2 is to bring your own photos. So if you are taking your own photos and making your own images, you can upload those. So to get the images that I want for my training set, I'm going to go back to generate images. I'm going to skip my private generators right now and go back to public. So in this list, we have the different assets that are available. But then over here on the right is actually this Runway ML Stable Diffusion V1. This is the generator that we want to use to be able to create our initial assets. Click on that. From here you can see there is no prompt. So this is the base generator in which you can create anything from. I want to start with, I'm going to call it landscape. I want the Magic the Gathering style. And I want mountain. One thing to note here, you can get different results depending if you use the plural or the singular version of that word. I'm going to call it, it's the artwork that I want. I'm going to start with those and hit generate. Interesting, I do see some of that theme of some of the mountains that I remember seeing from Magic the Gathering. I see some of the cards there. But you can see that the images are a little bit distorted yet. It looks to me like it's that the sampling process didn't go to completion. So I'm going to try moving these up to 75 and rerun that. Okay, with that completed, looks like this one is probably getting closer to what I want. These other ones, they have parts of the card there. Interesting. So the next thing I want to do is, this looks kind of ugly having these images in this way. I don't want to get rid of that. So I'm going to scroll down to the negative prompt and actually type ugly and see if that helps. All right, interesting results. Actually, looks like we do have what looks to be like an artwork piece and a couple more images. Very cool. These don't seem to have much detail in them. So what I want to try adding is I'm going to add 4K. Let's see, let's call it high quality, beautiful, and high resolution. Hoping that that will all sort of hint the generator to the image that I'm looking for. So these are starting to look a lot better. Now what I'm going to do is to enforce even a little bit more of how much I don't want low quality images. Is I'm going to go down to the negative prompt and provide it with some things that I've found that seem to help guide the generator in the direction that I want to go. I'm going to add low quality. So I want to pull anything that's low quality out, worst quality, go with low res. And hoping that text will kind of eliminate some of these card types showing up. And I know that looks like there's a signature over here or a watermark. So I want to try to pull that out. And with that, let's generate it. All right, that's looking a lot better. A lot closer to what I was hoping to get. One thing that I don't like is that there's a building in here. So I want to make sure that it doesn't give me buildings. So I'm going to try building. With building in there, let me try generating the images again. Some of these are looking pretty good. Again, I could click on them to see a little bit larger size and go through. I could go full screen if I want. That's looking pretty neat. Another part you can do with this interface is submit multiple generate images requests at a time. So for instance, I want to have some snow-capped mountains and also some desert mountains with some sand. So I'm going to run both of those. So I'll do snow-capped. Going to submit that. And I'm going to remove snow-capped and go to desert and sand. Add those and generate those. With that complete, looks like we have probably one good one of the snow. The rest of these, that one's pretty good too. So that one, not that one because it's actually showing like a wall. And then a card. So I'm going to skip those two. So the next part is now these images are starting to look like the ones I'd want. So what I want to do is click download and download those to my computer. So you download and save those. If you click on this button, it's going to put back the settings that you used when you created this image. So for instance, before I had the desert and the sand one in there. So if I click generate more, it's going to put snowcap back. So that part's really nice in that you may be asking, well, how did I create this previous image? So that's all stored for you. And then if I go to the sand ones, looks like there's also two that I like here. This one and this one both look pretty good. And those I don't. So I would go over here and download this one and download that one. And then again, if I want to go back and have those settings again, I can click generate more and then submit that. I think there's probably only this one that I would pick out of these. But what you need to start with is at least 5 images downloaded and ready to upload into create our new generator. I've already gone through and collected quite a few other mountain images from a different run that I did, but that would be the process. So once we have our data set or our image set, we're going to go back, click on those double chevrons, and then go to create a generator. Then we want to click on add training images. It's going to bring up this little editor. And what you can do is you can either skip an image. So as you go through this, you can say, actually, I don't want to use this image for the training set. You can accept the current crop. You can choose to change the crop, or you can accept all. Because these images are square images already, and they are the 512 by 512 that we produced, I can actually hit accept all. One thing to be careful of with this crop tool is that if you move outside of this now, this area is going to be part of that training set. So it's going to think that it expects to see white bars on the left side of the image. If you don't have it directly on that, you'll want to align it. By default, the tool will do that for you. So I'm going to skip that just so that I don't include that. You can see that it puts it right around that. But if you have images that are taller than they are wide, you're going to want to adjust that, or vice versa, and just make sure that you have that centered where you want. I'm going to click accept all because all of them are square. With all my images loaded, now I can also take a final review and either delete all or delete specific ones. So if I take a look and I'm like, you know what, actually I don't want this in there, I can delete it. A handy feature of this tool is this remove background. It doesn't make sense with my landscapes because I want the entire background. It is a landscape, but that is handy, and maybe in future videos I will show that functionality being used. So with all my images available, I'm going to click on next. First thing, you need to name your generator. So I'm going to call this mountain. And then what best describes the subject you're working on? This part, let's see. So I want, out of all these, I'm going to say that it is an art style. If you click on this, it's really neat because it shows you what kind of art you're going to be looking at. Concept art, yeah, it's maybe close to that. Drawing, sure. Illustration, maybe not. Painting looks pretty close. Pattern or sketch. All right, so it's between painting or concept art. I think is probably closest. I'm going to choose painting for right now. Seeing some of this and some of that is probably close to what I want. So then I click next. And then I click start training. As of the alpha, I am not able to modify any of these, so they're all just at default, but I'm sure later on, either in future betas or maybe when the product finally releases, that you can change these items. So I would click start training, but I already have my generator from before. After you click start training, it's going to take you to the generator section, and your generator will get added here. And you see actually it added my mountain generator here. And it says complete setup, but I actually don't need that, so I'm going to delete this generator. Here are the two generators that I created before. Here's my previous mountains one. So here are all the training examples that I provided from it. And again, I created those through using the Stable Diffusion generator, public generator. Just going to take a quick look at some of those. And here are some of the images that I created from that. Once you have your generator, you can then click on Generate Images. And now I'm just going to run this twice to show some examples of how this works. There are two iterations of those, and you can see pretty close. Those are looking pretty good to what I was hoping to create. And for my own generator, that's the only thing in the prompt. I don't need to add mountains. I don't need to add HD or 4K or high quality. All that is in there. One thing that I may want to do, I do see a little bit of artifacts like that. I may want to still go to the negative prompt and add ugly, for instance, and try to pull that out. Or I may want to add low resolution, low quality, things like that, and run that again. And that may give me better results. You can see right now, just having that, I can now create as many of these as I want. And it's going to be unique images, though they are very close to my training set. So if I want different versions of that, I can either then add prompts to tweak it to some degree. Now you saw in the potions, sometimes you can only take that so far. But depending on your training set, you might be able to do some things with it. So I trained this with some examples of, for instance, snow-capped mountains as well as desert and sand mountains. So I'm going to try those options in here. And generate that. And then also go to desert and sand and run that. Pretty cool. So I definitely have snow-capped down here and sand and desert up here. If I wanted to have those as part of my generator, so that way without having to type those prompts, I just want those to be options, I could then go in here, download it, create a new training set, and then create a new generator from those. So let's say I just want sand and snow cap. I could download these 8 and then create a new generator from that, and then it's going to generate images that are primarily just between those two. So you can really see how powerful this tool is. Once you start to narrow in on something that you want, you can just replicate it over and over, as many as you want. As you find things that you like, you can pull some of those attributes out. So that's pretty cool. We started with the Stable Diffusion generator, created mountains that were kind of like the illustrations that you would see in Magic the Gathering cards, and then create our own generator that could then just replicate that type of style for us. You can take this even farther. You can really start to dive into certain characteristics that you want, download that, create those images, create a data set, and then put that in there. You can mess around with the prompts and the negative prompts to really kind of find out what you do and don't want to see in that. Next, I want to show you the versatility of this tool, in that I created images of mountains that were kind of like paintings. Now I want to show something that is a little bit more like a photo. And so for me personally, and for these backgrounds that I use, I want to actually be able to generate my own backgrounds from this tool. Back in Scenario GG, going to click on the double chevrons. Going to go back to Generate Images. You can see here is already the generator that I created, but I want to show you how I was able to get to that. So I'm going to go back to Public Generators, go over to the Stable Diffusion model, and then here are the images from before. I can clear those out, so that way we don't see them. So for this, I want to create my background. So I'm going to start with, let's look at Indoor. I want Beautiful, Zoom Background, Large Windows, View of Mountains, and let's go with we'll start with that. Let's just run it. Okay, that's done, but oh, interesting. I have a little bit of kind of like artifacts, or it looks a little strange, and that's because I forgot to change the sampling steps back to 75. Let's run that again. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now, one thing I noticed is in my first ones I had furniture, and in the new ones I don't have furniture. So let me just add in, I want modern furniture. And generate. All right, those are looking pretty good. But they look a little bit fake, or even a little bit ugly. So I'm gonna go down to the negative prompts section and type ugly and fake. Go back, generate new images. Wow, this one looks pretty real. Some of these are looking pretty good. That one I like. That's pretty nice. Yeah. So what I can do then is, so if I want this one, gonna click on it, and then I would download. So you want to start with a few images, maybe 10 to 20 images, and start with that. So you would run this a few more times and collect those. Then once I have those downloaded, I'm going to go back to the double chevron, create a generator, add training images. Again, the cropping of those images. So this is on my previous data set. So I guess I actually only had 15. Since these are all going to be square images, I can just click accept all. Those all loaded. Again, I want the whole image, so I don't want to remove background. I'm going to click on next. Oh, and quick note here, so you can have up to 100 images. Again, though, I kind of recommend starting small and then expanding out after that. Click next. Going to name it backgrounds. And so for this one now, art style doesn't really fit. So let's see, avatars, people, no, NPCs, digital assets, photography. Yeah, I think that's probably better. And then let's just take a look. Abstract, not really. Oh, it's not really drone, food, landscape. Nope. Underwater. Yeah, no, none of those really fit. So I'm going to go with just others. Click next. And then again, start training. I'm going to go to the generator that I already created for that. Again, you can see it showed up even though I didn't complete it. So I'm just going to get rid of that one because I already have one. So now this is the generator that I created from those 15 images at a previous point. Click on that. And you can see some of the images that I generated. Now you may already notice, wait a minute, those look like they are in landscape. I will get to that in just a moment. But let's go to generate images and then just generate 2 sets of those. That's looking pretty good. I would probably use this one, maybe use that one. But the one thing is, if I click on that or even look at the image, I need something that is going to be widescreen. So if I use this image, it's going to give me just kind of this inside part, but that's not what I want. So what I'm going to do now is go to the advanced options and go to width and bring that all the way to 1024, and I'll run a couple of those. All right, I like this image pretty much, so I'm going to download this one and I will use this actually for the background of this video. And so those are the 2 generators that I created. It's both mountains and backgrounds. One has more of a photographic look and the other one has more of an artistic look. The other part of this, so I'm in the generators section, you can also go to images and that's going to list all of your images. But I find it a little bit more helpful right now to go to generators, because when you click on that, it's going to narrow it down to just those images that that generator created. And so that kind of filters that a little bit more. I'm sure in the future there are going to be filter options in images, but again, this product is currently in alpha. So I hope with that introduction, you now see kind of the flexibility and the power of this tool. I'm very excited to continue to work on this through the remainder of the alpha. I'm not sure what the next steps are for the company or the product as far as when they'll be releasing it or when there'll be additional testing steps available. Again, I recommend that you register your email so that way if there are other testing rounds that you can participate in, you can try out the tool for yourself. Or when the product is released, then you'll be notified that it's available for you to use. When comparing this against other AI generators, ones that I've worked with in the past have been the Hugging Face API of Stable Diffusion. I've also worked with DALL-E 2 and the Dream Studio. Each of those tools work in similar fashions in that you have a prompt, but where this one really accelerates, I think, is just the ability to kind of curate your own data set from the diffusion model, then create your own generator from that data set so it narrows in to the type of assets that you want to create. And then from there, you can add even more prompts, tweak it, change it, create another training set, another generator. And then once you have things kind of refined, you can just keep replicating numbers upon numbers of these assets. I'm really excited by all the features that this tool already provides, and I'm excited to see where it's going to grow into. I'm going to keep using Scenario GG while I have access to it during this alpha period. And I'm going to create more images and more generators. And I have a few ideas, and if those work out pretty well, I'll create another video here to show you some of the other features, probably like the background remove and maybe some of the other types of images that you can create or the types of assets that you can create. If you liked this video or found it useful, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already, do subscribe to this channel if you want to see more videos like this in the future, and follow me on Twitter for any updates. The link is in the description below. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. And thanks for watching.